It's time for another installment of our annual Roman festival series, Shadows of History. You know Saturnalia, Lupercalia, but today we explore a festival so obscure even Romans nearly forgot it. This is Furrinalia. January in Rome was a month of sacrifice and celebration. The year was young, and sacrifices to the household gods were a common way to ensure their continued favor. This included the lares, spirits believed to reside in statues throughout the city, often at crossroads or outside of households. These stone markers were thought to protect travelers, and the Romans honored them with small gifts or prayers. For the law, this was usually done by the head of the household, a male priest, the pater familias. But there was one day set aside for the women of the household to make offerings, and that day was the 27th of January, the day we now celebrate as Furrinalia. The word Furrinalia comes from the Latin for bear, ferra, and while scholars debate exactly what connection this festival had to bears, it's likely that the Ferae, or she-bear, was a reference to the constellation Ursa Major, also known as the Great Bear. Whatever the case, the origins of Furrinalia are shrouded in mystery, unlike some other festivals which can trace their origins back to the legendary founding of Rome. We don't know much about the early celebrations of Furrinalia. It wasn't mentioned by Ovid in his description of Roman festivals, and it only received a brief mention by Plutarch in his essay on the Roman and Greek calendars. What we do know is that it was a rural festival, celebrated mostly in the countryside and small towns. The main activity associated with Furrinalia was the procession, a ritual where the women of the household paraded through the fields, carrying small clay huts on their heads. Inside these huts were tiny domestic animals like chicks, rabbits, kids, goats, and even lambs. These offerings would be left at sacred groves and trees, particularly those belonging to the household god, the lares. Sometimes the women would leave cakes and fruit at the base of the tree or altar, completing the offering. In some cases, the animals were sacrificed and their blood sprinkled around the roots of the sacred tree. Along the procession route, the women sang songs and told stories about the deeds of Romulus and Remus and other legendary founders of Rome. While it may seem strange to modern audiences, the procession was actually a common feature of many Roman festivals, such as Furrinalia and the Saturnalia. This practice dated back to the earliest days of the Roman state and was a holdover from the pre-Roman, likely Etruscan, traditions of central Italy. During the procession, the women would stop at sacred sites connected to the fertility of the land, such as the Furrina, a grove sacred to the goddess Furrina, who presided over childbirth. The exact nature of the rituals performed here are unknown, but they almost certainly involved prayers for a safe delivery for mothers and children. The celebrations of Furrinalia lasted 3 days. The first 2 days were taken up by the procession to the Furrina and other sacred sites, and on the third day, the women returned home, bringing back branches from the sacred trees to place inside their own homes. This helped to sanctify the household for the coming year, ensuring the protection of the lares and the well-being of the family. The final branches were reserved for the oldest woman in the household, the grandmother or the mother, who would keep them in her room to ward off evil spirits. Like many rural Roman festivals, Furrinalia was absorbed into the broader celebration of Saturnalia. This occurred sometime before the 1st century AD, judging by the descriptions of the festival by Roman writers, but this absorption wasn't complete. Although the ceremonies were combined, Saturnalia remained a festival primarily associated with the god Saturn, while Furrinalia was still celebrated in honor of the female deities of the land and hearth. But as time went on, Furrinalia was celebrated less and less. By the 4th century, the pagan festivals of January had been supplanted by the celebration of the birth of Christ on January. Today, few people remember Furrinalia, but it played an important role in the lives of women in early imperial Rome. Much like the modern celebration of Mother's Day, Furrinalia gave women an opportunity to come together as a group, strengthen their bonds, and ensure the safety and fertility of their community. That's all for this episode, but please join us next time when we look at the festival of Lupercalia. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.